Ever since Yakuza 7 was announced, there has been a lot of concerns and rants about the direction of the game, and I don't blame the fanbase really. Change is a scary thing, no matter what subject we talk about, and in this case where we have a franchise loved by so many people inside and outside Japan like Yakuza, it is pretty understandable. But let me tell you, the game has never felt so fresh and unique in a long time. And in this review I'm going to address the different points of controversy or doubts that longtime fans of the series may have, as well as advice for the newcomers to the series that really want to know if Yakuza 7, like a dragon, is a correct place to start. There are a lot of timestamps on the screen, so you can skip to any part of the video if you're not interested in hearing me talking about every single detail. So just take into consideration that this review will assume that you haven't seen any of the Japanese trailers or developer interviews and you're completely blind regarding what is going on with the game, which I think is the best way to experience Yakuza 7. So this review you're going to get is one of a player that's still very new to the series, someone who never missed the cast or the side of KAMUROCHO over the years, and this is also a review of a not so proficient action games player that went from only loving hit actions to enjoy the depth of the different combos and try to get better with every title. Now with that said, let's head on to the first big concern everybody has with this game. Yakuza 7 is like a freaking tsunami of changes, and for many, not having KIRYU-CHAN as the main protagonist of the series might be a little bit too much. Kiryu has been the role model and main ingredient in the series. He is the Goku of the Yakuza world, with his godlike strength and formidable moral code, guiding every single entry of the Yakuza games as better than anyone else could have. Other emblematic characters like the members of the Tojo clan, the Sunflower Orphanage, or longtime friends of KAMUROCHO are now gone too. This places a heavy burden on the shoulders of Ichiban Kasuga, the new protagonist introduced in Yakuza 7. But I am happy to tell you that he is a perfect relay or tag for KIRYU-CHAN. And I want to stress that I didn't use the word substitute, because that is never the intention with Ichi in the entire game. I mean, come on. 15 years with the same protagonist and the first time you have a new guy come around and you try to make him a clone? Nah. He's not Kiryu 2.0, not even close or relatable to any of the other protagonists that we've had in previous 7 main games of the franchise. Ichiban shares a strong moral code like Kiryu, but has a more outgoing and fresh personality that contrasts with his harsh past that you will get to know throughout the chapters of Yakuza 7. I think you will really learn to love his tenacity and energy, and I am sure you will find a new character that can become one of your favorites right away. So just give him a chance, trust me. But what about the rest of the cast? Oh boy, they are friggin' amazing. Kiryu-CHAN was always the lonely guy type. Even when he knew he had friends, he always tried to protect them by going solo in those epic battles against the armies of Yakuza, gangs or mafia. In games like Yakuza 4 and Yakuza 5, we started to see a change in this as other protagonists were added to the plot and he relied more on them, but this is nowhere near the level of camaraderie that you will experience in Yakuza 7. Ichiban doesn't have the Herculean strength of Kiryu and needs to rely on his team. Every single one of them has a very unique personality, but they are not just teammates, they're allies but also friends that you get to know in depth as the game progresses. Every single opportunity that you have while exploring the enormous district of IJINCHO, which we will be talking about right away after this, deepens your bond with your friends. You can walk past a place that was important for their past and that dialogue will suddenly pop out on the screen. If you enter their favorite restaurant, they will talk about the food they love, and you can even go to the movies with them so you can have a good time. I remember that many of these dialogues and memories only happen in 1 or 2 cutscenes or inside the memorable Serena and New Serena bar. But now, RGG Studios team have changed the approach and this makes you care more about the whole cast. By the way, I am pretty confident that the localization team will do a fantastic job as always, bringing those stories and tiny little details with the West version of the game. The more time you spend with your teammates doing activities and learning about their past in their own sub-stories, your friendship bar will increase, and new features will unlock, like extra XP while they are in standby mode, or a follow-up attack if an enemy lands near them and Ichiban knocks them out. Even special Kiwami attacks with Ichiban with incredible animations. Never in the series has a party of total strangers actually felt like a solid team in every single detail, and this is a part that makes the story work as the chapter goes on. I think the story is one of the main reasons why you will play a game in the Yakuza series. Every entry has an interesting combination of mystery, treason, criminal underground world, and weird, sometimes hardly justifiable, story twists that are unique to the series. Yakuza 7 is not the exception, and if you are in for the story, you will definitely have a good time. This is an origin story where you will get to know everything about Ichiban's past in KAMUROCHO and how he ended in the district of IJINCHO. It is an emotional roller coaster up to the very end of the game, where they explore the bonds of friendship and family in a new district that lives in a very delicate balance among different criminal factions. You will get sad, angry, nostalgic, but also laugh and smile until the credits roll out. Putting aside a couple of story twists that will make you scratch your head, I think we have a really solid 20-ish hour story that perhaps doesn't snatch the first place in my tier list that Yakuza 0 and Judgment have in a tie, but it sits comfortably in the top 3 for sure. This is a story tailored for new and old players alike. If you are a complete noob to the Yakuza series, you will have no problem on enjoying this story, and even when there are mentions of events that happened in the past, which are minimal, they are presented in a concise and easily understandable way that doesn't interfere with the overall story, which revolves 95% of the times around Ichiban and IJINCHO. This doesn't mean that there aren't subtle pokes and winks for long-term players and fans of the series. You will find them scattered around in sub-stories, NPCs, minigames, and certain chapters of the story, and I'm sure that they will make you feel nostalgic and excited at the same time. Now, if you're a new player and you absolutely want to get the best experience of Yakuza 7, I would recommend playing Yakuza Kiwami, Kiwami 2, Yakuza 4, 5, and 6. I know, I only left 2 games out, but I think those are the ones that are never mentioned in any form or Easter egg in Yakuza 7, so in case you don't want to do that, you could also just play Yakuza 6 and read the story recaps for each game, and that will save you a dozen of hours, but that's up to you. The new district of IJINCHO is a fantastic new setting that you will get to explore as you progress through the game, and brings a whole new vibe that we hadn't got in the previous games of the series. KAMUROCHO will always be the crazy, dazzling and chaotic old district that you are happy to go back, but IJINCHO feels more like what the developers can do now, rather than what they did 15 years ago and had to stick with since the release of Yakuza 1 in the old PlayStation 2. Don't get me wrong, I love KAMUROCHO, Sutamori, Okinawa and Onomichi, but IJINCHO feels like something that finally takes advantage of the PS4 and the Dragon engine. The city is divided into different neighborhoods that make you feel like a damn tourist again. Each one has a very distinctive presentation, and while these kind of transitions in KAMUROCHO or other cities were very subtle and barely noticeable, here you can actually recognize that you are leaving and entering a certain area in the district. I refused to take a taxi for the first 40 to 50 hours just to keep walking around, exploring hidden areas, finding valuable items and secret safes scattered around while I tried to familiarize myself, and I think the game does a fantastic job to introduce you to IJINCHO, as many of the chapters, sub-stories and side quests will take you all over the city. Sometimes it may feel a little too big, especially once you've reached the endgame, but having the ability to take a cab using your smartphone anywhere in the map is the perfect solution for this. To think about the different possibilities of how this city and its multiple locations can be used forward in the series is really refreshing, and I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, let's get to what I think is the biggest concern of the Yakuza fanbase: the turn-based combat system. This is the first time in the history of the Yakuza series that Yakuza changes its traditional action-based combat, and let me tell you, this is the most fun I've had in any Yakuza game in any of the 8 main entries of the series. Having said that, The new combat system is like a coin, because on one side you have something that works wonders with every regular fight that you have in the game, which is 95% of the times you will be fighting. But on the other side, it falls short on almost every single one of the boss fights, which despite being the remaining 5% of the times, sometimes represents some of the most iconic moments of the Yakuza series. Let's start with the good stuff. Enemy variety has been increased by dozens. This means that you won't only be fighting the fat guy with the couch, or the guy with the gun, or the dagger, or the classic sword over and over and over again in the game. 80 hours in, until the very end of Yakuza 7, yes, 80 hours. I really take my time. I kept finding new enemies surprising me either with their character design, enemy skills, or animations. The amount of detail and passion that the RGG team has poured into the 250 plus enemies in the game is astounding. Of course, there are certain enemy archetypes like the Yakuza or the punks, but there is much more that you will discover and keep the game fresh for a very long time, as each type of enemy has strengths and weaknesses that match perfectly with the new turn-based combat system. Your character has a wide variety of options to attack or defend themselves, using standard attacks, throwable items like guns and explosives, powerful actions that will consume MP points, or summons that cost money but perform special actions like boosting your party's stats or inflicting massive damage. You can guard yourself or correctly time a button press when the enemy hits you to reduce incoming damage. Use items to heal status like potion or sleep, or swap party members on the fly if you find out that someone might be more effective than the ones in your current roster. And this is where the job system really shines. There are 17 different jobs that you can select for your friends depending on Ichiban's human attributes or the level of friendship that you have developed with each party member. You can either focus on only one job or try to change things every once in a while. Think about it like the Yakuza Series Rush, Beast and Brawler mode. You can spend the time that you like playing the style that you want. Every time you swap jobs in the Haruwaku office, you will keep a couple of the abilities that you have unlocked from previous jobs, but start from scratch in a new one. This makes the combat feel fresh and challenging again, even when you are very advanced in the game. As in any game of the Yakuza series, you will feel that you start slowly and have very limited options to attack. But dedicating time to multiple jobs by power leveling can be really useful to create certain profiles for your party members. One can be totally offensive, another one be a medic, or perhaps a more balanced one. And talking about the job abilities, I love that I can now select any single special or Kiwami ability that I want and perform the QTE without scratching my head too much. You see, I am a dumb regular player regarding fighting games, and many times during the Yakuza series I've got excited about unlocking some new ability and 10 hours later had just a handful of opportunities to use them. Even with Judgment, where I spent around 140 hours, I had to grind for hours to finally see the attacking turtle in the pond hit action. In Yakuza 7, I know all the abilities that I have are at hand, and when and how I will use them is up to me. I know this is a matter of skill that may please a lot of advanced players, but I think that a part of the community that is poorly skilled will probably appreciate this. If you want to test the feel of the combat system, I suggest that you download the demo in the Japanese PlayStation Store, because even if I am trying to describe it as best as I can, it is better if you try it by yourself. My only negative point with the regular enemy battles is the use of the environment. In previous Yakuza games, you could roam freely and grab whatever you have nearby and use it in a fight. In Yakuza 7, you can't move your character at all, and the interaction with objects is based on proximity. So if you have a bike in front of you, you will kick it, and if it's near an enemy, you will grab it and use it. But this almost never happens as it is intended. Kicked objects will always crash with the ground and break without doing damage, and objects nearby are often ignored, making this very frustrating. If you could only move your character with the stick, which you can't, to get close to any of these objects or select them with a couple of extra button presses, this would be fantastic and add even more fun to the actual system. But I hope this can be fixed either on a new game or perhaps with a new patch later. Also, there are some weird situations where a battle starts and your team is far behind you and they have to run a marathon to catch up and start fighting, or when the area is too big, like a big hall or a street intersection, but this is only a minor detail. Now let's get to the bad side of the combat system, the boss fights. Sadly, with only 3 to 4 notable exceptions, every single boss fight in the game feels flat and doesn't have the excitement and blood-pumping action we had in previous games. QTEs and in-fight cutscenes have been removed almost entirely in 95% of the battles. This, for me, is a huge step back because many of my most memorable moments with Yakuza Series have been some of these amazing boss fights that included some sort of setting, transition or badass fighting sequence where you had to be on your toes to do or avoid receiving extra damage. Fights like Lao Gui in Yakuza 0, Lao Kalong in Yakuza 1, Ryuji Goda in Yakuza Kiwami 2, or even the fantastic final boss fight in Judgment are clear examples of this. Another big downside is the game has only one difficulty setting, so for those of you like me that want a more challenging experience, it becomes something very limited and subjective, as boss fights will often be easier or more difficult depending on the level of your team, the quality of your weapons that you have equipped, the combination of party members and the number of sub-stories and side quests that you have completed, which now grant powerful summons, items, and equipment. I didn't sweat a drop for the first half of the game until suddenly I came to a boss roadblock, a really good one though, that forced me to level up a little bit and try different combinations of party members, jobs and weapons to finally succeed. And this is my point, when a side quest regular battle suddenly is more challenging than most of the boss battles, I think we have a problem. Finally, I wanted to point out that I expected the RPG side of the game to shine a lot more in boss battles. There are very few occasions where you need to really strategize instead of just smashing the buttons to do damage as fast as you can. There are almost no secret boss mechanics or playful level design. If RGG studios really want to keep the series on the RPG side, they need to do some serious boss fight research on games like Persona or Final Fantasy, just to mention a couple, because these will serve as good examples of what a boss fight should be in the RPG side. With these two sides of the battle system taken into consideration, regular battles and boss battles, I would very confidently say that I never want to go back to the action-based combat. I don't want to lose this great RPG fun because every other Yakuza game feels now very basic and monotonous. I know that RGG is going to react based on the feedback for the game, and if the majority of the fanbase misses the action style, well, I'll go with it. If that happens, I would love to see this turn-based combat system stick in the Judgment spin-off series so we can have both in the future. But let's see what happens a couple of weeks after the Western release of the game. Finally, I just wanted to briefly let you know that all the other crazy stuff like minigames and sub-stories are as solid as ever as with any game of the Yakuza series. You've got all returning favorites like karaoke, darts, golf, company management, but brilliant new additions like Dragon Card, the cinema, knowledge exams, or the side quest jobs that will get you running for the city for hours. Sub-stories are a little bit of everything, as usual, with some that will make you laugh, others that will touch your soul, and some that are absolute nonsense. Classic RGG studios. This makes the endgame of Yakuza 7 an enjoyable experience that adds up to everything I mentioned before and make it even better. Yakuza 7 is a game that really pushes the series forward in a very good way, challenging old standards, introducing a new cast, district ideas and systems that mostly work perfectly together to bring one of the best games in the Yakuza series overall. I am very excited for you to get your hands on the game as soon as it releases in the West for you to experience IJINCHO and the story of Ichiban. If you want more information or guides of this game, I have a ton of videos and playlists in the top right corner of this video that might be useful, but for now, I hope you have enjoyed this review. If so, please leave a like and share this with your Yakuza lover friends, or even consider subscribing to the channel for more guides for some of the biggest AAA titles in 2020. I'll see you later in another video. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you later.